How are you, my dear?
Yeah! That was amazing. Bravo. Encore.
What if one performance could shake the hearts of millions, and make even the most loyal fans question what they believed was
subscribe
impossible?
to our channel.
What if, for a few brief minutes, time itself seemed to pause, and a legend felt alive again? On a quiet evening, under blinding stage lights, something unexpected happened. It was not just music. It was not just dance. It was a moment that felt larger than the stage, larger than the crowd, larger than memory itself. For decades, the world had loved Michael Jackson. His voice, his movements, his magic had shaped generations. Fans believed they had seen everything. They thought they understood the legend completely. But that night, something changed. Among the thousands in the audience sat Daniel Reyes, a 42-year-old lifelong fan who had grown up copying every step in his small bedroom mirror. He was quiet, deeply emotional, and fiercely loyal to the music that had carried him through his hardest days. Beside him was his younger sister, Alina Reyes, 29 years old, gentle and observant. She had inherited her love for the music from Daniel, though she carried it differently, softer, more reflective, more protective of memories. Backstage stood Ethan Cole, 19 years old, nervous yet determined. He was not famous. He was not a superstar. But he carried something heavy in his chest, a dream mixed with fear. He respected the legend deeply, almost painfully. None of them knew that in the next few minutes, their hearts would be tested. The stage darkened slowly. The air grew still. The audience leaned forward without realizing it. Daniel's hands trembled. Alina's breath slowed. Ethan closed his eyes for one last second before stepping into the light. What happened next would not just surprise the fans. It would challenge what they believed about legacy, about memory, and about how powerful a single performance could be. Could one young soul truly touch something so sacred? Or would this night become a mistake no one could forget? Ethan Cole was only 19, but his heart often felt older than his years. He lived in a small apartment with his mother on the edge of the city, where the walls were thin and the nights were loud. Life had never been easy for them. His father had left when he was a child, and responsibility had quietly stepped into his life far too soon. Ethan was gentle by nature. Soft-spoken. Thoughtful. He carried his emotions inside, like fragile glass he was afraid might break if exposed. But when he stood alone in his room, music changed him. He had a small mirror taped to his bedroom wall. It was cracked slightly at the corner. Every night, after long hours working part-time at a grocery store, he would stand in front of that mirror. He would practice the spins. The sharp turns. The pauses. He was not trying to become famous. He was trying to feel something powerful. Since childhood, he had been drawn to the magic of Michael Jackson. The precision. The emotion. The way one movement could tell an entire story. Ethan didn't just copy the steps, he studied the feeling behind them. Still, doubt followed him everywhere. At school, people called his passion unrealistic. Some laughed quietly when they heard about his dream. Others told him to focus on something normal. Ethan would nod politely, pretending their words didn't sting. But they did. He had a habit of biting his lower lip when nervous. Of rubbing his hands together before stepping on any stage, no matter how small. He often replayed mistakes in his head long after everyone else had forgotten them. Lately, sleep had become difficult. The upcoming performance weighed heavily on him. This wasn't just another tribute show. This stage was bigger. The audience was larger. And many in that crowd had loved the legend for longer than Ethan had been alive. He feared disappointing them. He feared being compared. Most of all, he feared not being worthy of the music that had once saved him from loneliness. Tonight, standing backstage, he wasn't thinking about applause. He was thinking about whether his heart was strong enough to carry something so sacred. The invitation to perform had arrived quietly. At first, Ethan thought it was a mistake. A tribute night. A large stage. A crowd filled with lifelong fans of Michael Jackson. It was the kind of opportunity he had dreamed about since childhood. But it was also the kind of moment that could break him. Just 2 months earlier, Ethan's mother had fallen ill. The hospital visits became frequent. Medical bills stacked up silently on the kitchen table. The apartment felt smaller each day, heavier somehow. Ethan had started taking extra shifts at the grocery store. His body was always tired. His eyes often burned from lack of sleep. Yet every night, he still practiced. Because dancing was the only place where fear loosened its grip. When the show organizers called again to confirm his performance, he hesitated. Not because he didn't want it, but because he was afraid. Afraid that if he failed, it would prove what others had always said. That he was just a boy chasing shadows. He also carried a private regret. The last time his mother had seen him perform live was 3 years ago, at a small school event. She had clapped the loudest. Smiled the brightest. Since her illness, she had not had the strength to attend any show. This time, she would not be in the audience either. The thought cut deeper than any criticism ever could. Ethan wanted to make her proud. He wanted to bring home something more than grocery receipts and exhaustion. He wanted to show her that her sacrifices meant something. But the pressure felt unbearable. He wasn't just performing for fans. He was performing for his mother's fading strength. For his own fragile confidence. For a dream that felt too big for his small world. Standing backstage, the weight of expectation pressed against his chest. If he failed tonight, it wouldn't just be embarrassment. It would feel like losing the only light he had left. The lights dimmed. A deep silence spread across the hall like a slow-moving wave. Thousands of faces disappeared into darkness, leaving only the stage glowing in pale blue light. Ethan stepped forward. For a split second, fear swallowed him whole. The crowd was larger than he imagined. The air felt heavier than backstage. His heartbeat echoed in his ears. Then the first note played. It was soft at first. Familiar. Sacred. A ripple moved through the audience. Some straightened in their seats. Others froze completely. Daniel's eyes widened. Alina held her breath without realizing it. Ethan did not rush. He did not try to impress. He closed his eyes. And in that quiet second, something shifted inside him. He stopped thinking about comparisons. He stopped thinking about critics. He stopped thinking about perfection. Instead, he thought of his mother sitting by the small kitchen window at home. He imagined her tired smile. The way she would gently fix his collar before every school performance. The music grew stronger. When Ethan opened his eyes again, the fear was no longer leading him. Emotion was. His movements were not copies. They were conversations. Each step carried gratitude. Each pause carried memory. The audience felt it. This was no longer just a tribute to Michael Jackson. It was a young man pouring his entire life into the stage. Midway through the performance, something unexpected happened. The massive screen behind him, planned to show simple visuals, suddenly displayed an old photo, Ethan as a child, dancing in his living room while his mother clapped in the background. The organizers had quietly included it after speaking with his family. Ethan froze for half a second. His breath caught. The image filled the entire hall. The crowd saw not a performer, but a story. Tears began to appear in places where applause usually lived. In that moment, Ethan understood something powerful. This performance was not about being worthy of a legend. It was about honoring love. And love, unlike fear, never trembles under bright lights. When the final note faded, the silence felt different. It was no longer heavy with doubt. It was full. Warm. Alive. Then the applause came, not loud at first, but deep. It rose slowly, like a wave building strength. People were not clapping for perfection. They were clapping for honesty. Daniel wiped his eyes without shame. For years, he had guarded his love for Michael Jackson like something fragile. He believed no one could ever touch that magic again. But tonight, he realized something important. Legends are not replaced. They are remembered. And sometimes, they are honored in ways that feel new and deeply human. Alina felt it too. The performance had not tried to copy the past. It had carried it forward. Softly. Respectfully. Backstage, Ethan stood alone for a moment after the curtain fell. His hands were still trembling, but not from fear. They trembled from release. For the first time in his life, he did not feel small. He did not feel like a boy chasing shadows. He felt like someone who had stepped into the light without losing himself. Later that night, when he reached home, he found his mother awake. The show had been streamed online. She had watched every second. Her eyes were tired, but proud. Ethan finally understood that success is not about becoming a legend. It is about being brave enough to share your truth, even when your voice shakes. The crowd had expected imitation. Instead, they witnessed sincerity. And that changed everything. Because the real magic was never about perfect steps or flawless spins. It was about heart. When someone performs with love instead of fear, the stage transforms. And sometimes, in those rare moments, fans are not just entertained. They are healed.